You think this is what car tuning is all about? Big wings, flashy rims, and an exhaust that makes your neighbors hate you? Maybe you've even spent thousands on bolt-on parts, hoping for more power. But all you got was a car that's a lot louder, not a lot faster. But have you ever thought that the secret to real, reliable power is already inside your car, just locked away in its computer? What if the most powerful tool in a tuner's shop wasn't a wrench, but a laptop? Today, we're going to show you where the real magic happens. It's not in the hardware you can bolt on, it's in the code you can't see. Back in the day, car tuning was all about getting your hands dirty. We all picture mechanics under the hood, swapping parts, messing with heavy stuff. And yeah, that's part of it, but it's not the whole story anymore. Now, the biggest power gains don't come from bolting stuff on, they come from rewriting the rules your engine plays by. We're talking about ECU remapping. I know, it sounds super complex, maybe a little intimidating, but don't worry, because in this video, I've made it easy to understand what it is, how it works, and why it's the single best way to change your car's performance without even picking up a wrench. Let's start. Before we can tune a car, you gotta understand the single most important part of any modern car, the engine control unit, or ECU. Think of the ECU as the brain of your car. It's a little computer, usually made by companies like Bosch or Delphi, and it's the command center for your engine. Every single second your engine is on, this little brain is making thousands of calculations to keep everything running just right. So what's it actually doing? Well, the ECU is hooked up to a whole network of sensors all over your engine. It's constantly getting data, like air temperature, how far you're pushing the gas pedal, engine speed, how much oxygen is in the exhaust. Oh, there are so many more sensors. Relax. It's also listening for a really dangerous thing called engine knock. Based on all that info, the ECU makes super precise decisions. It controls three key things that make or break your engine's performance: the air-fuel ratio, ignition timing, and, on a turbo car, boost pressure. It decides exactly how much fuel to squirt in, the perfect millisecond to fire the spark plugs, and how hard the turbo should spin. It's a constant balancing act to make sure your car starts on a cold day, idles right, and gives you power when you floor it, all while trying to save gas and pass emissions tests. So, if the brain is so smart, why do we need to tune it? Simple. Compromise. Car manufacturers don't tune a car for maximum performance. They can't. They have to make one tune that works for millions of cars all over the world. That tune has to work if you put in good 93 octane gas or the cheap stuff. It has to work in the freezing cold and the blistering heat. And most importantly, it has to be super conservative to make sure the engine lasts way past its warranty without blowing up. This safe, one-size-fits-all map means manufacturers leave a ton of performance on the table, on purpose. They build in this big safety cushion. They basically detune the engine to make it foolproof for your average driver. And right there, in that safety cushion, tuners find all the hidden power. They're not adding something that wasn't there. They're just unlocking what the factory held back. Now, this is where a lot of car enthusiasts make their first big mistake. You get a new car, you want more power, so you start buying aftermarket parts. Usually, it's a new air intake and a loud exhaust. The logic makes sense, right? An engine is just an air pump, so more air in and more exhaust out should mean more power. In theory, yeah, but in real life, it's not that simple. You can bolt on the most expensive carbon fiber intake and the loudest exhaust ever. But if you don't tell the car's brain what you did, you might get zero power gains. Why? Because your ECU is still running on its factory program. It's still using the map that was designed for the stock, restrictive parts. It has no idea you made these changes. It's like putting on a pair of new running shoes, but continuing walking. The ECU is programmed to see a certain amount of air at a certain RPM. You throw on a high flow intake, and that whole relationship changes. The engine might be gulping in way more air than the ECU thinks it is. That can make the engine run lean. Too much air, not enough gas. Running lean is super dangerous. It can cause detonation or engine knock and destroy your engine. So what happens? The ECU's knock sensors hear that, freak out, and pull back the ignition timing to save the engine. And pulling timing kills power. So the parts you just paid $2,000 for to gain horsepower are actually killing it. This is the big thing people miss. Hardware without a tune is mostly a waste of money. The bolt-on parts don't make power. They just create the potential for more power. To actually get that power, you have to go back to the brain and give it new instructions. You have to tune it. So this brings us to the heart of modern tuning, ECU remapping. In simple terms, remapping is just changing the software inside your car's brain. A tuner connects a laptop to your car's OBD2 port. Yep, the same one your mechanic uses, and with some special software, they download the factory map. That's the rulebook your engine has been following its whole life. Then, the magic starts. The tuner goes through that map and starts making very careful changes to the engine settings. They're recalibrating everything to work better for performance, usually based on the gas you use and where you live. It all comes down to three main things. First is the air-fuel ratio. The factory tune usually runs a little rich, a bit too much fuel, to be safe and keep things cool. A tuner can lean that out to a more perfect ratio for a bigger, more complete explosion in the cylinder. They just watch the sensors carefully to make sure it never gets dangerously lean. Second, and this is a big one, is ignition timing. This is all about when the spark plug fires. The factory timing is super conservative to avoid knock on bad gas. A tuner can advance the timing, firing the spark a tiny bit earlier. This lets the explosion push down on the piston with more force, right when it has the best leverage, creating more torque. Third, for any car with a turbo or supercharger, is boost pressure. This is where you find the crazy power gains. Manufacturers usually set the boost way below what the turbo and engine can actually handle. A tuner can just tell the ECU to let the turbo spin faster and make more boost, shoving more air into the engine. When you combine more boost with the right fuel and timing, the power gains can be insane. Once the new map is perfect, the tuner flashes it back onto the ECU. The brain now has a new, performance-focused set of instructions. The throttle feels sharper, the power comes on smoother, and the engine is finally making the power it was always capable of. So when you start looking into this stuff, you're gonna hear stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 thrown around all the time. It's basically just a simple way the industry sorts the different levels of tuning. Stage 1 is a tune for a completely stock car, no new parts needed. This is where most people start. It's all about optimizing that factory software to unlock the power that was already there. A stage 1 tune can give you a really nice bump in power, starting at around 10% for most engines and up to 35% for performance beasts like AMG and M models. Torque jumps too, and the car feels way more responsive, all while staying well within the safe limits of your stock components. For a daily driver, stage 1 is pretty much the perfect sweet spot. Stage 2 is where software and hardware start working as a team. A stage 2 tune is written specifically for cars with basic bolt-on parts. We're talking about a better air intake, a bigger intercooler for a turbo car, and a less restrictive exhaust or downpipe. At this point, the tune isn't just an option, it's required. The new parts help the engine breathe, and the stage 2 map is calibrated to take full advantage of all that extra air. The power gains are bigger than stage 1, boosting your car's performance by up to 45% or more. But you have to pay for the parts and the tune. Stage 3 is for the really serious folks, the ones probably hitting the track. This means major hardware changes. We're talking a bigger turbo or supercharger, bigger fuel injectors, a new fuel pump, and a lot of times, stronger engine internals like pistons and rods. With this stuff, you can't use a generic map. A stage 3 car needs a full custom tune, usually done on a dyno, where a tuner can spend hours dialing everything in perfectly for that unique combo of parts. It's the most expensive and complicated level for people gunning for maximum power. Every Supra, GTR, and BMW hitting 700, 800, or even 1,000 plus horsepower is running stage 3 with serious upgrades. So we've talked a lot about theory and numbers, but how do you actually know the tune worked? How do you prove you made more power? And more importantly, that you did it safely? The answer is the dynamometer, or dyno. A dyno is basically a treadmill for your car. You strap the car down and it drives on these big rollers, letting a tuner run the car at full throttle through all the gears in a safe, controlled spot. The dyno measures the exact horsepower and torque the car is putting down at the wheels. A dyno session usually starts with a baseline run. They run the stock car to get a power graph. That's your before picture. Then they flash the new tune onto the ECU and do it again. That's your after picture. The graph is the ultimate proof. You can see clear as day where the tune made a difference. And it's not just about a higher peak number. A good tune adds a ton of torque in the low and mid-range, and that's the stuff you really feel when you're just driving around town. It's that shove in your seat when you pull away from a light. Dyno is also a critical safety tool. While the car's running, the tuner is watching dozens of data points live from the ECU. They're watching the air-fuel ratio to make sure it's not lean, listening for any sign of engine knock, and watching all the temperatures. If they see anything that isn't perfect, they stop, tweak the map, and run it again. This process of run, log, adjust, run again. That's how a pro creates a tune that's both powerful and perfectly safe for your car. Look, it's clear ECU remapping has awesome rewards. You get more power, more torque, a car that feels way more fun to drive, and sometimes you can even get better gas mileage. It's the best bang for your buck mod, period. However, we gotta talk about the risks. More power means more stress on everything. A good professional tune will stay within the safe limits of your stock parts, but it does eat into that big safety cushion the factory built in. This can mean more wear and tear on stuff like your clutch or transmission down the road. The real danger, though, is a bad tune. An overly aggressive or poorly written map can be a disaster. If some amateur tuner pushes the boost too high, runs the fuel mix too lean, or gets too greedy with the timing, it can lead to massive engine knock and a blown engine. Don't screw around with this stuff unless you really know what you're doing. This is why you cannot cheap out and go to a bad tuner. Their experience is your engine's best insurance policy. Finally, you have to know about your warranty. In almost every single case, messing with your ECU will void your powertrain warranty. If your engine has a problem and the dealer finds out the ECU was flashed, you're paying for that repair yourself. It's a risk you have to accept if you want to chase performance. What are your thoughts on ECU tuning? Have you had your car tuned, or are you thinking about it? Let us know in the comments what car you'd tune, and if you want to see how crazy tuning actually can get, don't miss this video.